All right, so you've been exploring that audiovisual world, huh? Seems like becoming an audiovisual technician has got you thinking.
Yeah, it's really
We're
cool.
going to break down this whole career path from the actual equipment you'd use to what a normal day looks like, for real. Get ready to ditch those vague job descriptions. We're taking a deep dive into audiovisual expertise right here, right now.
And you know what I find interesting? This field is way more than just setting up a projector in some boring office.
Right?
We're talking about recording studios, huge event venues, even film sets out in the middle of nowhere. This RoleCatcher guide really shows you how many places need these audiovisual pros. It's kind of surprising.
Okay, so the guide talks about good salary and creative work.
Yeah.
Like, who wouldn't want that, right? But what's the downside?
It's like, yeah, you're setting the mood with lighting and stuff, but you're also the one who makes sure a CEO's big presentation doesn't totally flop in front of like hundreds of people.
No pressure or anything.
It's high stakes for sure. That means crazy hours, working right up to the deadline, and sometimes you're figuring out problems on the spot, live, in front of everyone.
Whoa. Okay, so then what separates the audiovisual pros from, well, everyone else? What skills do you absolutely have to have in this job?
You know, it's funny you mentioned rock stars because knowing how to set up a mic for a concert, that's just as important as understanding all that technical stuff about, say, digital audio for recording.
Yeah.
Remember how the guide said 75% of the job is all about computers and electronics?
Yeah.
That's what that actually looks like in real life.
I see. So it's more than just knowing how to, like, use the equipment. You
Yeah.
have to get how it all connects.
You've got to have that strong technical knowledge. But critical thinking is huge, too. Imagine a microphone just dies in the middle of someone's speech. You need to figure out what's wrong and fix it, like, super fast. And you can't even freak out because everyone's watching.
That's wild. It's like being like a tech detective, but your crime scene is a conference or a concert stage.
Totally. And don't forget about communication.
Oh, right.
You'll be
Really?
explaining all this tech stuff to people who might not get it at all. Being able to, like, clearly communicate those solutions is just as important as actually knowing them.
So you're not just the master of wires and buttons. You
Right.
have to be good with people, too. That's interesting. I feel like this is a job where you're constantly learning and adapting.
Yeah, definitely. This guide talks about career progression, but honestly, even within one job, tech is changing so fast that you have to be cool with always learning new things.
That's true. So let's say you want to move up in this field. The guide shows a path from entry level to senior positions, but can you give us some real life examples?
Oh, yeah. Let's say you just finished a training program, ready to get started.
Mm-hmm.
You find an entry-level job, maybe helping a more experienced technician at a big conference center.
Mm.
You're getting that hands-on experience, setting up equipment, fixing small issues, maybe even getting to use the audio mixing desk a bit. It's all about actually doing the work at this stage.
So kind of like an apprenticeship then.
Totally.
You're learning and getting paid at the same time.
As you get more experience, you might become a junior technician.
Okay.
Now you're in charge of more. You're managing those smaller events by yourself, and you might even lead a small team. This is where you start to specialize, whether it's live sound, video production, or something else entirely.
Instead of setting up the stage, you're running the show. That's pretty cool.
And think of it this way. Every event that goes well, every live stream that works perfectly, it all becomes part of your portfolio. You're not just getting experience, you're building your reputation.
Reputation is important in any job, but I bet it's huge in this kind of field.
It's everything,
Yeah,
especially if you ever want to freelance.
that's true.
But we can get into that later. For now, let's stick with climbing that career ladder.
All right, sounds good. So you've put in the work, you're good at the basics. What's the next step?
Now you're a senior audio-visual technician. You've made it to the big leagues. You're leading big, complex projects, managing other technicians, maybe even working with clients to figure out the absolute best audio-visual setup for their events.
Wow. What kind of events are we talking about?
Like music festivals, massive conferences, live broadcasts, the works.
So you're not just running a single show anymore, you're like the conductor of an orchestra.
That's a great way to put it. And just like a conductor, you need to handle a lot of things happening at once. Know when problems might come up before they even do, and make sure everything flows smoothly.
That takes some serious organization and leadership on top of knowing all the technical stuff.
Absolutely. And don't forget about those people skills we talked about.
Hmm.
At this level, you're managing personalities, dealing with disagreements, and making sure your whole team is working toward the same goal.
So it's not just knowing how things work, it's about knowing how to handle people too. That's a lot to juggle. But those big projects sound pretty rewarding, seeing everything come together.
For sure. There's nothing like being in a concert hall packed with people, hearing them cheer, and knowing you helped create that whole experience.
Okay, so we've talked about skills, career paths, the pressure, the rewards. It's a lot. But what about day to day? What's a typical day like for an audiovisual technician?
Honestly, there's no such thing as typical in this line of work. Every day is different, which I think is one of the best parts.
Oh, interesting.
One day you might be setting up mics and speakers for some business conference. The next day you're wigging lights for a play. And then the day after that, you could be fixing a video wall in a busy airport. It never gets boring.
Wow, talk about variety. No chance to get bored, that's for sure.
Definitely not. That's why being adaptable is so important. You have to be comfortable working in all sorts of places with all kinds of equipment and often with tight deadlines and unexpected stuff happening.
Speaking of different places, this RoleCatcher guide seems to focus on more traditional media settings. But what about all the online content being made these days? All the live streaming, VR stuff, people making videos everywhere you look.
Mm.
How does that change things for audiovisual technicians?
It's a whole new world.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Every single person with a ring light and a phone is basically their own tiny production crew now.
Ah, so true.
And as more and more people want online content, they need more skilled technicians who know how to handle all that digital stuff.
So it's not enough to just know how a soundboard works anymore.
Right.
You got to be a digital expert too.
You got it. Things like video editing, live streaming software, even knowing a little bit of coding.
Mm-hmm.
Those skills are becoming essential for audiovisual pros.
So you're not just capturing sound and video.
Oh,
You're optimizing it for all these different platforms and audiences.
exactly.
It's like being a one-person media empire. You're not just a technician, you're a producer, a director, a tech whiz, all in one.
That's a great way to put it. And the really exciting part, all that technology is constantly changing, so there's always something new to learn.
It's like you're always a student, but instead of boring textbooks, you're messing around with cameras, microphones, and all the newest software. That does sound way more fun than my high school chemistry class. But let's get real for a second. Actually getting a job in this field. To land a gig as an audiovisual technician, you have to show off your skills, both the technical ones and, how well you work with people. RoleCatcher has a whole section on interview tips, but for someone brand new, what are some things they should be prepared for?
Well, it is competitive, no doubt. But don't just focus on proving you can use the equipment. You want to show them you can solve problems, think on your feet, and stay calm under pressure, especially when you have to communicate with others.
So it's not just about what you know, but how you handle yourself in those tough situations.
Exactly. Let's say you're interviewing for a job at a music venue. They might ask, what do you do if a microphone just stops working in the middle of a show?
Ooh, good question.
They're not always looking for the perfect answer. They want to see how you think when things get crazy.
It's like being on a tech support hotline, but way more intense. So how do you get ready for that kind of pressure?
Practice, practice, practice. Imagine those common problems that might pop up in different audiovisual setups. Think about how you'd troubleshoot them, clearly and calmly, even if you're stressed.
Like having a mental list of solutions ready to go, no matter the audiovisual emergency.
That's a great way to put it.
But besides all the technical stuff, what about just being yourself? What can someone new to this field do to make a good impression?
Honestly, enthusiasm goes a long way.
Really?
Let your passion for this work show. Talk about projects you've worked on, even if it's just setting up the sound for your friend's band practice. Employers want to see that you're genuinely interested, not just there for the paycheck.
So it's not just about having a perfect resume. It's about letting your personality show through, your passion, your love for the work.
Exactly. Even a genuine smile and a confident handshake can make a difference, especially in this field where teamwork is so important.
I got it.
Oh, and don't be afraid to ask questions. It shows you're eager to learn and improve.
Good point. Okay, so let's say you nail the interview and land the job. Awesome. What's next? What are some common traps that new audiovisual technicians should try to avoid?
One big one is trying to do too much too fast. Everyone starts somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
It's better to really get good at the basics, those fundamental skills, before trying to do complicated tasks that might be beyond you right now.
Don't run before you can walk.
Exactly.
Solid advice. Now, let's talk money. The guide talks about a good salary for audiovisual technicians, but can we get specific? What's a realistic expectation for someone just starting out in this field?
Well, remember that salaries can be all over the place depending on where you live, your experience, what part of the industry you're in, even the specific skills you have. But in general.
All right, we're back. Time to talk money. What's the deal with those audiovisual salaries?
Okay, so imagine this. You're fresh out of your training program.
Okay.
You land a gig as, say, an assistant technician,
Uh-huh.
maybe in a mid-sized city, not a huge, crazy expensive one. You're looking at an entry-level paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
enough to cover the essentials, and maybe snag some good noise-canceling headphones because, trust me,
Yeah.
after setting up sound systems all day, you'll want some peace and quiet.
Huh. Makes sense. Essential gear for the audio-visual pro on the go. But I'm guessing where you live matters too, right? Like working a concert in LA probably pays differently than setting up a projector in a small town.
You're totally right. Big cities, especially the ones known for entertainment and tech, those salaries tend to be higher.
Right.
Think Los Angeles, New York, Nashville, places with tons of demand for audiovisual pros.
Geography is key. Gotcha. But let's say you've been at it a few years, you've got some impressive work under your belt, maybe even a specialization. What kind of money are we talking then?
Now that's where experience really pays off. Literally. You climb that career ladder, you take on more responsibility, maybe even lead your own crew.
Yeah,
You can
right.
earn a lot more. We're talking double, maybe even triple what you started with.
All right, now we're talking. Definitely motivates you to keep learning and moving up. But besides the paycheck, what about those other rewards? What makes this job more than just a job?
That's the important part, isn't it? The why behind the work.
Totally.
And in this field, those rewards go beyond the money. You're creating experiences,
Hmm.
whether it's a concert that gives people goosebumps or a conference that sparks new ideas, even a perfectly lit video call that helps a team connect.
You're like the wizard behind the curtain, making magic with technology.
That's it. And it feels amazing to see your work come to life, to be part of something bigger. Plus, you get to use awesome gadgets all day long. I mean, come on.
I'm sold. But really, for our listeners thinking about this career path, what's your best piece of advice? What do you wish someone had told you when you were starting out?
Easy. Never stop learning. This field changes constantly, so you got to embrace those challenges.
Keep up with the times.
Exactly. Experiment with new tech, go to those industry events, connect with other people in the field.
Network, network, network.
Be a sponge for knowledge.
So it's not just knowing your way around the equipment, it's about staying curious, always wanting to push those boundaries.
You got it. The moment you think you know everything is the moment you start falling behind.
Truth. Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. We've covered everything from how the equipment actually works to how to create those unforgettable experiences for people.
It's been fun. Hopefully our listeners have a much better idea of what it takes to succeed in this exciting world of audiovisual.
For anyone out there wondering if they have what it takes to be an audiovisual technician,
Yeah.
we say go for it. Jump in, get those hands dirty, and never stop exploring the possibilities. Until next time, keep those minds curious, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.